Code.
I
Okay,
love,
we're live.
hello. I love that you're wearing that sweatshirt.
For those of you who may be watching the video, this is a
Hmm.
sweatshirt that Mia bought for me during her Great American Adventure last year, 2024.
I love it.
I do too, and I was thinking of you this morning, so I
Looks
was
so
like,
good.
I'm gonna wear it. It's
You
so
look
soft.
really nice. Yeah, and I want to say it's yellow. It's yellow, isn't it? It's like
No,
a
it's cream.
oh, I beg your pardon.
Please
Beg your
do.
pardon.
Beg your pardon.
I beg your pardon. It's got from here, I mean, across
Mm,
the pond,
yes.
it's got a very pale, lemony yellow
Mm.
look, and it's gorgeous. It looks so nice on you. And your hair looks very nice. I
Oh,
mean, you look
thank
very
you. This is
pretty.
day 3 of not washing.
Oh, it
It
looks so
like
good.
it's to the point where like you curl it and it just stays there.
I love dirty hair.
It's like why I didn't learn about dirty hair till I was in my 40s. And I was like, wait a
Really?
minute, is that we're not supposed to wash it every day? For any of you listening, we're not supposed to wash it every day. I had no
No,
idea. And then dry
no.
shampoo came along and I was like, done. I'm never washing it again.
I'm not a dry shampoo girl, but I do
Mm,
like dirty hair. It's more, you can do more with it.
mm.
It's more malleable. You can bend it into
Yeah, yeah,
shapes
yeah. And do the thing
like
and it'll
pipe
stay.
cleaners, and it'll just stay in the
Yes.
shape. Love a bit of dirty hair. I'm wearing a
Look at
sweatshirt.
that gorgeous. Well, first of all, you're wearing a scarf. It's a really beautiful color.
Ali, this is so soft, it's ridiculous.
I'm gonna crawl through my screen. I want to feel it.
It's literally the softest thing ever.
Mm.
Um, and what was it called? Orange and wine were
Yes,
the
please.
colors.
I'll
So it's
take
kind of like a
2.
sangria. Yeah,
Oh my
it's
God, I love it. It's
mm,
beautiful.
it's yummy. It's so soft. And the sweatshirt, I really like the sweatshirt. I love that we're having a fashion chat. I love it. I love a bit of fashion chat.
Transformation is on fashion.
Transformational fashion, but it's long at the back. It's proper, it comes down a little bit, so it's scooped a bit longer at the back.
Mm,
And it
hmm.
came, a neighbor gave me, she said, I'm throwing out some clothes. And I was like, oh, let me have a rummage. This was a while ago. I don't know, like years ago. And so the clothes had come from her mum. So they'd already been thrown out by her mum. They'd gone to her.
And she was throwing them out.
She'd had a rummage
And
and
you
she
were
was like,
like, I gotta
yeah. And
see
I
this.
and I was like, I don't normally like this color. Like she really likes plum and wine and those
Mm.
sorts of things and maroon. And I'm like, ugh, don't like them. But I really love this sweatshirt. And I've worn it gardening, I've worn it out, I've worn it like, all over the place. And I really like it. So I'm wearing that today. I'm drenched in sort of wine colors and
Mm-hmm. Yummy
warmy colors,
warm.
which is really nice.
Mm-hmm.
And I would like to just before we kick off to the like really important grown-up stuff, just like to say that I've just driven to Marlow
Yes.
to drop off 3 sacks, like 3 bags of clothes because I have been, Marie Kondoing,
Yeah.
and I have just taken these clothes, this really lovely little charity shop. So it's a
Yes.
thrift shop, but
Nice.
it's kind of very boutiquey. They have really
Yes.
nice white, all the hangers are the same, and it's very beautiful. So when you go there, you feel like you're shopping in a really nice boutique.
Yeah.
And everything in there is secondhand. And I've just dropped these things off, and I'm like, wow, I can't believe that I have let these things go, that I've been keeping some of them for 30 years. I mean, beautiful things,
Yeah.
25 years. So, yes, I'm sort of feeling, I don't know, particularly attached to this sweatshirt. It's all I've got left. It's all that's left in the
That's
whole
right.
house to wear.
Wowee. Well
Yeah,
done.
so thanks. I sort of feel like,
Yeah.
can't believe those things have been released. I sort of have half a vision in my head of me dashing back to the shop and going, oh, I was on
Just
medication.
kidding.
I didn't mean to. I was having a mad moment. I didn't mean to drop any of those things off. Give them back. but I
Oh,
won't because obviously I was glad to let them go
you've already said
and
goodbye
release
to
them.
them.
I
Yeah.
have, but I said a lot of other goodbyes as well. Oh, I love you.
Mm.
Bye. In the car. I love you. Bye.
Oh my gosh. Full circle then.
Madness.
Total completion. Well done.
Muchas gracias.
Okay.
So, what are we talking about today other than
Well,
fashion?
so what popped into my head, we can always go anywhere. One
Okay.
of the things that I'm noticing about myself, I had a client yesterday who was struggling with this as well, is victim mentality. So I thought it'd be kind of fun to talk, explore, dabble, um, and then see where we go.
Mm. I love that you use the word fun and victim mentality in the same sentence.
Ooh, it's a real riot.
Yeah, absolute riot. Love that word.
Mm.
Cool. So,
So what is it? What is victim
yeah.
mentality? You know, there's so many different, that's what I'm so fascinated by. I love how creative our minds get when it comes to being the victim. Because like there's the obvious where you just point. You're like, it's their fault, it's his fault, right? So anything external, like they're
Mm,
the reason, the
mm,
collective they are the reason that I cannot do the thing that I want to do. So
mm,
that's always like that's the obvious one. But then there's like these it's really popular right now. It feels like it's everywhere where it's like I'm feeling a certain way because you're doing a thing.
mm.
That is very victimy. I think we've talked about it on a previous podcast where I was in a leadership development program with there was just a woman in this program, and she at one point stopped the facilitator and said, I'm not feeling safe because you're not organized and I feel like you don't know what you're doing. And the rest of us were like, this is so awkward. Like she wasn't taking any ownership at all. Instead of requesting what she wanted, she like kind of blamed and complained. And it
Yeah.
was, yeah, she didn't. So it's victim mentality serves a purpose. It's awesome because it means I don't
And
have to do
fun.
shit. Oh, and it's super fun.
So much fun. Yeah, I think we're talking about here. I
Mm,
mean, I'm going to say this and you can see what you think. Common or garden victimhood.
yeah,
So obviously um, there are circumstances in the world where people are victims. There may be traumatic circumstances where people might be victims of something. I'm going to put that to one
yes,
side and say
yes.
that's not what we're
We're
looking
not going
at
there today.
today. No, we're not looking at the heavy duty, you know, perpetrator victim situation in really traumatic
Thank you.
circumstances. So I'm just going to, thanks. I'm just want to kind of say that's not what we're looking at. We're
Yeah.
looking at the more communal garden sort of run of the
It's
mill
this
day to day.
mentality where we
Yeah,
kind of
day to day thing.
slither out of things.
Yeah, yes, shirk off the responsibility.
Mm,
And you said just now that what this woman in this program did not do was she did not make a request. And
there were two things. She didn't make a request,
mm,
and she didn't do what she needed to do. Like she was saying that she didn't feel safe, and she put that responsibility on the facilitator. And like, that's a maybe this is too harsh, but I feel like if I don't feel safe, I need to do what I need to do to get there. Like it's not your responsibility to make me feel safe. It's my responsibility to make me feel safe. If there's something I can request, like, hey, would you stop hitting me in my face? Okay, I'll make the request. I'm making it up, but I don't feel like the world owes me safety. Okay, and by the way, this is like intellectual because I'm a victim all the time. So I talk a good game. But
okay,
I do think it's much more empowering to see what can I do to create safety for myself in any, like it may be that she needed to go take a break or that she needed to not share what she didn't want to share. and just accept that she didn't feel. I don't like, there were so many things that she could have done, but instead, in front of the group, she said, "You're making me feel unsafe." And I love
Mm.
that statement because it's like, nobody can make you feel anything.
Yes, and I think when I sort of um, I go back to how we are trained.
Yes.
So when I think about how we train children or how I was trained, maybe as a child, I don't know that I was explicitly told to make requests about what I wanted. In fact, I think
No.
I may have been
Or you're told not to.
deterred, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, from doing that. Like, don't be rude. It's really
Right.
rude to ask for what you want. Can I have the last piece of cake? Like, for heaven's sake, don't
What
be
kind of
rude. Yeah, what kind of insane request is that? So I think I was probably trained not to ask for what I wanted or
right?
needed. And then that puts me in a position of sort of hoping it will float past me, and I can kind of, it'll float near enough for me to
Subtly
get
grab it
it.
without anybody
Yes, I
seeing.
can get it. And I'm wondering for myself, I'm sort of thinking about myself here and thinking, is that where that has come from for me, that sort of not wanting to ask, not even seeing that it's an option,
Yeah.
because it was never really presented to me. That in itself sounds victimy. Why was that never presented to me, Alison? But
They didn't present it to you.
they
It's
did
their
not.
fault.
Yes. And obviously, I don't know if it is obvious, but as I've gone into the world of coaching and
Mm,
looked at all of these things, I've then had the advantage of learning about being at cause in my life
mm,
and being at the effect of things that happen. And this
mhm.
isn't a new concept. It's sort of,
Right.
life is not so much about what happens, but it's what you do with what happens. That's not a new
Yes.
concept.
Not at all.
Things will happen. It will rain. There will be,
Yes.
there will be, ups and downs in one's life.
Yeah.
It's not so much those, shifting sands that matter as what you do with them.
Right.
And that's that empowered place where when I'm not being a victim,
Yeah.
at the whim and like a little boat tossing and turning on the waves of all these things that are happening, the tumultuous experience of life. I'm much more empowered, but I don't remember being right back as a child being encouraged to be empowered and make requests.
Yeah.
And that feels, go, you have something to say.
Sorry, I barely inhaled. You caught
Oh
me.
my
You're
God.
like,
Oh my
she's gonna
God.
say a thing.
Can I just say, I've had 6 shots of coffee today. I normally only have two. Normally only have two. And then when I took the stuff into town to, the clothing to
Yeah.
release it back into the wild, um, I was with my eldest son and he was like, I'm starving. I said, okay, let's go and get some breakfast. And we ended up in a very nice little French bistro. It
Oh,
was very, very
cute.
nice. And you and I have been there,
Nice.
actually. You and I have been to
Oh,
that place, yeah. And we went there and you got a coffee with he was like, oh, do this, have this breakfast thing, and you get a coffee and you get a smoothie. And I was like, oh my God, okay.
done.
So I had a flat white, and then he came along, he was Portuguese speaking. And so, of course, we had a little bit of an exchange in Portuguese. And then he was like, I've accidentally made an extra coffee and I got it wrong. And like, would you like it? And I was like, sure. So now I've had 6
Yes.
shots of coffee,
Yes.
which is
Okay.
why
Do we need to
I can
stop
tell
this
what's going to
podcast right now?
happen on your face before it even happens. I can tell what you're thinking before you even think it.
I
Because I'm
barely
like,
moved my mouth.
you thought about breathing in, and I'm like, you want to speak? Tell me something.
My face barely moved.
Yeah,
Okay,
go.
this is going to be fun. Well,
Yeah,
shit, what was I going to say?
I have no
I don't
idea.
even
My eyes
remember.
twitching. Had so
Um,
much caffeine.
okay, you need to take it down one
Okay, one
degree.
notch.
And what the hell were you talking about? You were talking about
Mm,
the training as well as there it is. So part of it is that we're not trained to ask for what we want. We're kind of
hmm.
trained out of it. Just
Yes.
get your needs met, figure it out. If it's offered, that's fine, but don't ask for the last piece of cake. Like that's super rude. The
Mm.
second thing that I notice for myself, as well as a lot of the people I work with, is people don't know what they want.
May
So
I?
it's real hard to request it. I'm ready. Ready, go.
Go. Okay. And of course, if we've had voicing what we want trained out of us
Yeah,
at
yeah,
aged 3,
yeah,
and I'm coming from, I have no idea if it's the same in America. You will be able to inform me. But, we have lots of sort of, codes and
yes,
ways of being and, appropriate behavior and inappropriate behavior, and you must behave appropriately.
yeah,
And don't do that, and whispering and sort of, telling
yeah,
you how you need to behave. That whatever I wanted, that instinctive kind of like, I want this, this is pretty, I like this,
yeah,
that being trained out of me, of course, by the time I get to 35, 45, 55, I will have forgotten. I will not be in the habit
of knowing.
of being able to tap into what it is I want.
Yes,
That's been trained out of me.
yeah, yeah, they go together.
They do. And then I am definitely, there's this sort of blanket experience of, it's quite low level, but being a victim of circumstance. Well,
Yes,
I couldn't ask for what I wanted. So I just literally had to hope it rolled by me and that I could just
yeah,
get it without making a fuss.
yeah.
Yeah, that may just be my own personal perspective on it.
No, I I have the experience of like the people pleaser in me has learned to push my needs, whatever they might be, so far to the back of the line that I can't even find them anymore. I have no clue what I want half the time. And so the practice of even trying to understand what it is I want and need is pretty difficult for me. So, um, you've been to America. We don't have the prim proper whatever it is that you just talked about. You've seen how we do things. We're pretty much like loosey goosey. I mean, that's not to say we don't have social mores and things, but we're
You're so
pretty,
fancy.
we're super, yeah, we're like, you know, we're a little bit more rebellious than the Brits, I would say. And I think we do that just by the nature of how we were founded, right? Like
Yeah,
we
yeah.
aren't British, so we're not going to do those things.
Mm,
Um, but I still was raised with, I don't know how I was trained. I do know that I felt the need to accommodate the needs of my parents,
mm,
whether that was consciously put on me by my parents or just like that's just how our family was.
mm,
Um, I did feel very responsible for one of my parents. Um,
mm,
and so that was like it was a very codependency type thing where it's like I needed to make sure that their needs got met. And
mm,
so I think like it's not that you can't do both. Like, can I get your needs met and my needs met? Of course that's possible. But as a small child, you're just like, I was hyper focused on that. So yeah, I think that plays a part. However, we're raised, our family of origin, the society that we grow
mm.
up in, um, for sure. And
Yeah.
the beauty of it is like, well, let me see, let me check. Do you feel like victims get a lot of attention? Not the ones, the trauma, the one that we put off to the side, but just like regular, everyday, like government sucks, my neighbor's a jerk. Oh my God, do you want to hear what they did to me yesterday? Like, it's kind of a, it
Mm.
draws us in, right? What is that?
In response to your first question, can victims or can my victimy behavior get me some attention? Yes, it can.
Hmm.
Um, Yesterday, did I feel victim? I felt rubbish
Mm,
yesterday. I
mm,
felt overwhelmed and I felt not good enough. And what I did was I rang a friend and said, I feel overwhelmed and I feel rubbish. Can you say some nice things to me? And I suppose in that sentence, I was doing the thing that was trained out of me as a child, when I'm sort of thinking about my internal working model of the world that was put together in the first 1,000 days of life and and maybe up to, 5, 6, 7, but I mapped out how to do things, and I knew that it was rude to ask. So, I wasn't asking for what I wanted. Now, after a bit of training in my adulthood in recent years, and I'm 107, so, late to the party. But yesterday I was able to ask for what I wanted. And I think I was feeling victimy. I was kind of like, oh, everyone's better than me, and I'm rubbish, and I don't know enough about this, and I don't know enough about that, and I've got too much to do, and I can't do it all, and I was feeling all these horrible feelings. But where I maybe shifted out of victimhood was where I actually actively used my agency, and I asked for some support. I was like, say nice things to me, please. So it wasn't covert, it wasn't hidden. I wasn't manipulating the other person. They said some nice things to me, and it helped a bit. I mean, I could have done with them saying some more nice things. I don't know that I asked for more. I think I was just quiet and went, But no, I'm kidding.
It's rude enough to ask the first time. You're certainly not going to do it twice.
I'm going to be double rude and go, I need more. Say more. Say more nice stuff. Say something about my hair. Say how pretty I am. Yeah. I think I'm done with that train of thought.
No, I love it. So when you got did it take courage to ask?
No, because.
Well done.
Judgmental face taker.
Sure. Oh, gonad's quite large. Well done, Mia.
No, it didn't. No, because I hadn't had any coffee at that point. No, it didn't take courage, because a few things make up the cocktail of why it didn't take any courage. I know this person really well, and I can be utterly myself with them.
Okay, I'm getting really jealous because it wasn't me. And now I want to know, who is this person?
You were asleep, otherwise it would have been you.
Okay, right on.
But I know them well enough. I can say something and then go, actually strike that from the minutes. I didn't mean that. I've changed my mind. So I don't feel I need to censor myself and kind of show up a certain way. I can just be with them. I know they love me. So I feel really loved in that relationship. And also I have had training and I have practiced asking for what I want. I obviously make, cack-handed, attempts at it. Like yesterday, I probably could have done with a bit more, because I was slightly aware of myself sulking in the car and sort of thinking, I didn't quite hit the spot. I want more. But I didn't ask for more. So there's definitely room for more practice. But no, it didn't take any courage at all.
Well done.
Thank you.
When I ask for things, I still get a wave of guilt. And I want to actually say there's a little wave of shame. That's just an old patterning from when I was little, that because this morning, because of the timing of everything with the podcast, I don't actually have enough minutes to potty and walk the dogs. And this happens every other Friday, by the way, like for as long as we've been podcasting, which has been over a year.
We could change the podcast time.
We're not. First of all, yes, maybe. And every other Friday, I come home and Brian's minding his business. And I'm like, oh my God, I don't have enough time. Is there any chance you could? And it's like this wave of like guilt and shame, just asking him to potty and walk dogs that are ours. Like, it's not like my dog and could you, and it's a neighbor that it's like, they're our pets. And it still happens. So
I can see something interesting in that.
Okay, do it.
Well, I'm just sort of wondering about, because it's a repeat thing. So you're repeatedly putting yourself
Yes.
into this situation. So,
Yes.
every two
So
weeks you're
who do I
having to go,
actually need to ask? No, I'm kidding. I need to
well, I'm
ask
sort of
you.
thinking, well, I'm sort of thinking, you know, you could put an agreement in place and sort of like have it be more of a one and
Duh.
done thing.
Right. Yes.
Or we could change, you
Yeah.
could make a request here
Right.
and make an agreement to change the time of this.
Could do.
Um, but yes, that's interesting. I would like to just say that yesterday it didn't take any courage to ask this person.
Yeah.
That was one instance yesterday.
Mm.
I can't think of anything right now, but I know that shame and embarrassment and sort of like feeling uncomfortable, feeling coy and shy about
Yes.
asking for what I
Yes.
want are, often available, if not
Well,
always.
I mean, I think being an entrepreneur, that's a big thing. Asking
Mm,
somebody, enrolling somebody to working with me, and then, throwing out a monetary investment was really hard when I first started.
mm,
I felt so sleazy. Um,
mm,
and I think there was even some shame wrapped up, it's just like everywhere. It was in there somewhere. And it took me years to get to the point where I could reduce the significance and the attachment that I had to that.
mm.
Um, yeah. The other, oh, sorry.
No, no, go. I
You
was gonna.
inhaled. I'm only on my second coffee, so I'm a little slow.
Well, I was just thinking, how does that relate to victimhood or having a victim mentality?
Yeah.
I can see with the dog walking that you've
Yeah.
made yourself the victim
Yes.
of, I mean, the
Of
victim's a
time.
harsh word, but you've made yourself the victim of your timetable, of time.
I mean, I have this
Um,
podcast. I can't
yes,
possibly.
yeah,
Whew.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
And you've until this moment anyway stayed in that pattern of like every other week, oh, I have to ask this thing, and
Yes.
that's kind of got a little bit of a whiff of victim. Well, obviously that's why you
For
mentioned it.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
but I'm not sure how the other stuff like asking for money, I suppose, because it all ties back to
Well, I think the
asking for what we
victim,
want.
like, as I think of victim mentality, the first words out of my mouth is, I can't do that. I can't possibly. I can't ask for what I want. I can't demand this amount of money for the work that I
Mm,
do. I can't, um, I can't enroll people into this weird concept. I
mm.
can't provide an ROI to them, right? Like, it's just all this, like, I couldn't possibly.
So you're the victim.
Yeah,
You're victim to your stories. Then you're victim in that
yes,
instance to your stories,
right. That what kind of
your I
person?
can't stories.
I remember when I
Yeah.
met some people that took the whole month of July and they take the month of December off. And I remember thinking, what kind of people are taking off 2 months every year? Who do they
Mm,
think they are? Right?
mm,
So it extends to like other people getting their needs met, which tells you a lot about my thinking, right? If I say something like that out loud to somebody else,
mm,
that tells you what I believe.
mm,
And I believe that that is probably something like maybe it's selfish or it's, you know, not professional or something, right? What kind of
mm.
person? What kind of person asks for the last piece of cake?
Yeah.
That,
Yes, and it goes back to rude and
yeah,
rudeness and
yeah,
etiquette and what's
yeah,
appropriate and what's allowed,
yeah,
and what isn't. And I'm finding this interesting because I'm sort of thinking, oh, yeah, it's actually this sort of thread that's potentially running through a lot of my thinking,
yeah,
informing a lot of my thinking about what is acceptable, what is unacceptable.
yeah,
And I fall victim to that thinking.
yes. So as I think about like parenting, leadership, being in charge of people,
Mm,
this is a very like it's so common, and it's also um, not terribly effective. It's kind of effective, otherwise we wouldn't do it. But there's more effective ways to get things done. And I remember sitting in therapy with my daughter, and the therapist was saying, okay, so here's the three, I can't remember what the model is, but it's like, here's the three positions, the triangle, the drama triangle, I think they called it. It was like the bully, the victim, and like, I don't remember the third one. And she's like, which one do you think you are? And I was just like, I thought I was the other one. And then she asked my daughter who she thought I was, and she's like, I think she's the bully. And then they asked me who I thought my daughter was, and then they asked my daughter who she thought she was. And it was so funny because we did not, neither my daughter nor I said we were the victim. And the therapist said, do you want to know what I think? Yes. And she said, great. You guys are in a race to get to the victim position first.
Mm.
And I was like, what kind of asshole
I'm paying for this.
says that
Yeah.
out loud? So a lot of times, I think we aren't aware of it, and it's so obvious to everyone around us. So if you're a parent, if you're a leader, if you're on a team, whatever, you're in a relationship,
Mm,
careful,
mm.
right? Because we're like, oh, I hate victims. Oh, I can't stand. Bullshit. You do it. You're doing it. And not only that, you probably don't even know when you're doing it.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, for some reason, I don't know why, but the idea that it's ridiculous. It's the core of the work that we do, but that I live at the effect of my thinking. Obviously, that's the whole core of our work. But that I
Yeah.
am, but when I put the word, I am a victim of my thinking, that has something else happen in my mind. I'm kind of like, ooh, I'm not in command of what's happening there.
Yeah.
It's running me. That
Yes.
story is running me.
Yes.
I'm not running it. I don't know
Yeah.
why that's maybe the coffee,
Like,
but it's definitely kind of making something go fizzy in my brain. I'm like, ooh.
I think of victim as being like, it's what I do when I'm lazy, when I just don't want to. I just don't want to.
Mm,
And then I can be the victim. And that gives me an escape hatch, you know?
mm,
It's awesome. Like it works. It just there's consequences to it. It's not that it's wrong or that it isn't effective. It's not the most effective. It's pretty effective at getting things.
mm,
I have a client who they get their needs met through, they can't express themselves in any other way than through the victim route. So they start by like crafting the whole thing through the victim perspective. I've had these terrible things happen to me because of, I couldn't do this, that, or the other thing because of all these external factors. And what's interesting is like, well, maybe this is where we can start to transition into like, so what do we do, right?
mm.
So we all do it, fine. I think you and I are on the same page. If we agree that's all that matters, it means that we're right. So big deal. So what do we do? Like we pointed out how it works, but what do we do if we're in it, or what do we do if we're with people who are in it? Do you have, I have an approach that I love. I'll share it first because I'm already
Yeah, go
talking.
if you have. Yeah, yeah.
And I learned this with teenagers, and I call it teenage whispering, was to validate. So teenagers are like real good at being a victim, right? They're really good at being like, ah, everybody's against me. My teachers hate me and whatever. So you'll get a kid that comes home from school and they're just like talking about how dumb and stupid everybody in the world is. And what I learned is if you can validate the feeling that they're having, it like calms their nervous system. Wow, you sound like you've had a bad day, or wow, you sound frustrated,
Mm,
or oh gosh, it sounds like maybe there's some betrayal that happened today. And it doesn't even matter if you're right, if you're close, it seems to work really well.
mm,
So for this client, what I do when they go into this like victimy, I'm this way because of all of those things, I just start by validating. Wow, that sounds really heavy. That sounds really disappointing. Wow, I can really hear that you're let down. You feel very let down right now, unappreciated, unimportant. And then
Mm.
they settle. And it's almost like the victim mentality is a protection mechanism so that we don't have to, I don't know.
Mm.
I don't know how to end the sentence, but it feels to me like it is a protection.
Don't have to be with the hurt. Don't have to, I don't know, don't have to look inside.
I think that's it. It's so that I don't have to look at my part in all of it,
Yeah.
which is hard and confronting.
Yeah. And I'm thinking about, so that's being soothed by somebody else.
Yeah, right.
That's a choice you're making when you see, you think someone is being, is sort of in a victim mindset in front of you, you do that.
Mm,
And I suppose in terms of, so what do we do about it? I asked, like, I'm feeling all of these horrible things.
yeah.
I asked for that soothing experience. Please
Yes.
say nice things to
Yes.
me, which soothed me. And then I'm thinking about when I don't ask somebody and somebody doesn't notice or isn't near me to notice. So, what do I do for myself if it's just me, myself, I in the
Yep.
room?
Yep.
Um, and I think I'm getting more practiced at being kinder to myself when I'm in those. And I'm also not, something I'm doing in terms of how to deal with this, I don't hide it if I'm feeling like poor me, woe is me. I was in a group call this morning and that I was still in the hangover of yesterday's
Mm,
feeling of not being good enough and whatever. And I shared last night with the people, see you on the call tomorrow. And, you know, I haven't done the things I said I was going to do. And I feel like bleh, I feel rubbish, and shared everything. And then talking to those people today, by not hiding how I was feeling, um, helped to soothe my nervous system. And that was a choice I made. I could have said a bunch of other, brilliant things and operated over the top of it, but I didn't. I just shared. I'm feeling a bit vulnerable and a bit low and a bit victimy or whatever and a bit rubbish. And by sharing it, I felt soothed.
what do you think the impact on the group was from your sharing?
Um, I don't know. Um,
What is the impact on you when someone shares their inner workings?
okay, well, one of the group replied yesterday and said, I haven't done what I was going to do either. So maybe it creates some kind of clearing in the space, to be honest.
Hmm.
Maybe it does that. Maybe it encourages people to feel they don't need to mask and they can turn up as they are. Maybe it creates, I mean, I'm probably just saying versions of the same thing, the
Well,
opportunity to show up authentically.
yes. And they don't have to fix it or carry it for you.
No.
When you're like, hi, I'm going to be real victimy right now. I'm going to just, I didn't do the thing. I have 1,000 excuses for why I now
Mm,
feel this way.
mm,
And
mm,
that is a really responsible way of sharing, such that now
mm,
everybody in the group didn't feel like they were like, oh my God, do you need me to come over and help? Can I do it for you? Have you tried this?
mm,
Because that
mm,
tends to happen a lot. And I think that's why victim mentality works. Because, like, you come in from a place of weakness and then people rush in. It's almost like a magnet to people like me, people pleasers, to come in and fix and solve and rescue and
mm,
save. And
mm.
so it gets their needs met. But
Yeah. I'm wondering, I had a thought sort of like,
yeah,
oh, yes, but these women are coaches. So, of course, they knew not to rush in and save. But then I'm thinking, actually, I think that's a red herring. I
Yeah.
think it's not dependent on the other people's skill or knowledge. It's dependent on how I share.
Agreed. Yes.
If I
I
share from a
was
place of responsibility and
right.
ownership. Yeah, no, I'm just having a little
Yeah.
thought thing there that I'm sharing. Yeah.
I think that's where it's important for all of us to note that when so I have a story of some clients that I worked with, and they were going through a really difficult time. They were a married couple, and they were separating in the marriage. And
Mm,
a lot of what we when we talk about, like, okay, how is this going to impact the team, because they owned a business together, and there was some talk around like, well, everybody kind of knows something's off. And so what we need to do as leaders is say something about it, because if we don't, then they're going to make something up in their minds and it's not going to be accurate. How do we share in a way that it is responsible? So how do we share with the team such that the team doesn't feel they need to do anything for the owners? And we
mm,
crafted a really powerful message, and then we just kept coming back and updating, and what the owners ended up asking for was just some space, like the way, because one of the things is like the team wants to help, right? We're all here together, we all love each other, we want to help each other. And so when someone comes in and
mm,
they're like, eh, I'm in breakdown, I'm having a hard time, people are like, oh my God, what can I do? So if you can share responsibly, I'm in breakdown, I'm having a hard time, and then you share something that people can do, it's super helpful. So like
mm,
what you did is you're like, I feel rubbish, I'm going to call my friend, I feel like crap, will you tell me a
mm,
bunch of good shit about me to my face?
mm,
Right? So that's a way you can help.
mm,
And so that's what they did, is they then said, I know you all want to help us. And so what we're
mm,
asking for is just, a little bit more space and a little bit more generosity in with each other, some more soft and gentleness with each other,
mm,
because things are going to get a little
mm.
rocky for us.
And all of that, Ali, is about being aware of what's happening inside of ourselves
Yeah.
and sharing as clearly and cleanly
Yeah.
as we can with others. So taking responsibility for what we're feeling, taking ownership. And that doesn't mean that we can't have a conversation with somebody about something that isn't working.
Right. Right.
We can, I don't have to put up with
Yeah.
something in a relationship, be it a personal relationship or a professional
Yeah.
relationship. That is not what this is about.
Right.
It's not about putting up with stuff. It's about understanding what's happening for me,
Yeah.
taking responsibility for what I am responsible for being, mindful of my own emotions, my own experience, sharing responsibly. So,
Yeah.
not that this is all about you, but this is
Right.
how I feel. Can we have a conversation if there is something that doesn't work for me professionally or personally?
Yeah. It's so I think about the scenario with, so I've got this thing, I can't sleep with my husband because he snores.
Mm,
Okay, that's a victim stance. I can't do the thing I want to do because he's doing a thing.
mm,
It's also true. The snoring does wake me up, and then I'm unable to get back to sleep because it is so
mm,
loud and disruptive to my
mm,
sleep. Fine. But that's not empowering. And what ends up happening from that place is then I become angry and resentful because he makes a noise with his face while he's sleeping, which he can't control. And so what has happened is we've, like, this has been 6 months of us, like, me being mad, him getting up in the middle of the night, leaving the room because I'm like, God damn it, like, trying to wake him up, and he's like, I'll just go in the other room. Well, that doesn't work either. I don't want him to not be in the room. So this, like, this whole thing, it's
mm,
so funny. We talk about it in therapy, like that's where we are in our marriage. Like the snoring is our biggest problem. So fine. What ended up happening is I started to take on, what can I do? Because I want to sleep in the same room with him, and I want to be able to sleep through the night. I want both. I can sleep
mm,
fine in a different room in our house. Kids are grown and full,
mm,
and we've got rooms. I don't want to not sleep with him. I like being in the same bed and in the same room with him. So that's what I want.
mm,
How do I make that happen? And once I took on that stance, it was energetically different for me.
mm,
It was a much more pleasing way of being about it, and it wasn't so significant. And you would laugh at all the contraptions I have by my bed that I am trying. I kind of have found a thing that sort of works most of the time. So we're
Mm.
getting closer. And now it's become like, okay, I'm working towards something versus like, well, I guess I just can't have the thing that I want. And I think about how many people, how many of us are running around the world not getting what we want because of, and then fill in the blank.
Yeah, once we make it about somebody else,
It's over.
yeah, because they're the only person who can do anything about it. And that would be
And it
so
isn't
easy to do with his
it
snoring.
right. And and that's where I find that like I was defensive. I'm like, but I can't sleep with the snoring.
Mm.
It's true. It is
Yes,
real.
yes, which makes it really
Really
sticky and
fucking
tricky
annoying. Yeah.
because but you're kind of like, but it's true. Yes, it's true. So
Hmm.
it looks like there's nowhere else to look.
Right.
But if I
He
want to
needs to
sleep,
fix it.
yeah, if I want to sleep with this snoring human, what can I do
Right. Do I have to
that
leave the room?
that
It's an
doesn't
option.
involve making him do things necessarily, but is
Right.
about me doing things
Right.
that help me to get what I want, which is to sleep with that snoring human?
Right. And when it started, I was like sleeping in another room and I was like, wait a minute. I shouldn't have to because he's the problem.
Yeah.
Right? It's just like Al Anon, right? You go into Al Anon and you're like, I am married to an alcoholic. How do I get him to stop? And they're like, thanks for coming. We'll see you next week.
Mm.
Because that's not your problem. Your problem's you.
Mm.
And when you're living in an alcoholic home, you're like, no, I
Mm.
don't think you guys understand. And they're like, yeah,
Yeah. Oh, and this is tying back into a conversation I know we had a while ago, but when I have to take responsibility, then I get very uncomfortable because I'm thinking about a relationship I have where the person probably wants to see me more than I want to see them.
uh-huh,
And by not seeing them as often as I think they would like to see me,
yeah,
I have a whole pile of opinions about myself. So it's much easier for me to do the thing
yes.
that I think they're kind of messaging to me that they want,
And just be resentful
and
about it.
and just be a victim of it, kind of like,
Yeah.
well, they do this and they do that and they say this and they say that, so I have to go and it's my duty and I have to do the thing, so I go, but I hate it and I'm a victim of how needy they are and all the rest of it. If I put that down, then I need to be with myself and the fact that I do not want to go and see this person as often
Yeah.
as I used to, or as often as they might want me to. And what does that mean about me?
Right. What
So
kind of
then I'm
person?
dealing, yeah, what kind of person? Then I'm sort of getting closer because I can then see that I am at the effect of my own thinking. I am falling
Yeah.
victim to my thinking of
Yes.
what kind of person would that make me
Yeah.
if I didn't do that. And I planned my weekend this morning, which was one of the things I did in that call with these coaches,
Hmm.
and just shuffling my papers. I feel like a
Please,
newsreader.
we're on the news.
And I wrote this person's name on my thing as a thing that I needed to do this weekend. And I was like, I don't want to do that. I've put it here and I don't want to do it. So I've actually scrubbed it out and I've moved it to a place where seeing that person is what I actually want to do at that point in my weekend.
Oh,
But
damn.
yeah, but it's kind of like, what kind of person? My eyes twitching again.
It is.
The caffeine and the stress. It's like, yeah, because I don't want to be. It's much easier for me to be a victim of that person's demands than be a demand for what I want,
Yes.
and then look at what I think that makes me as a
Yeah.
person, what that means about me as a
Yeah.
person.
Yeah. I
Cringy. Much
I have
rather blame
another.
them.
It reminds me of I was in a group that works with horses.
Mm,
And so you're there developing yourself using the horse as a way, as an honest, immediate feedback mechanism, right? Horses are just honest. They give you immediate feedback. And
mm,
so it's like this really beautiful, and they don't have like weird hang-ups about like making you feel a certain, they're just a horse, right? They're like,
mm,
you're not congruent, you're not breathing, you're
mm,
not safe, whatever. So they give you this feedback. And so the whole purpose of working with horses is to have your experience with your horse. And I was in a group, and this one woman kept saying, well, I noticed that this other person wasn't able to do we were trying to, like, they had us doing different exercises with the horse, and she was like, I noticed that this other person couldn't do it. And so I was gonna, like, it made me really sad because I really wanted her to have the experience. And she went on and on. And then the facilitator said, okay, can we ask a question of the group? And she was like, sure. And the facilitator said, okay, guys, how much time did she just spend focusing on somebody else versus how much time did she talk about her own experience? And everyone's like 90-10, 95-5, right? And it's like, it was easier for her to watch all the other people and whether or not they were getting what they needed than it was for her to focus on her experience and what she could learn about herself. And I think this is just one more way that our brilliant minds keep us from being confronted. Like, what kind of person doesn't go visit whatever on a regular basis? What kind of
mm,
person asks for the last piece of cake? What kind of
mm,
person, um, I'm trying to do something with the snoring, I can't get there. It doesn't matter. You get the point.
mm.
It's so confronting. And this is just
Yeah,
another tool in the tool belt of the mind. The mind is like,
yeah,
that's okay, cool. You're just a victim.
yeah.
Like, you don't have to look at yourself. Look at all the other people. Look what they're doing. That was something that your son, I don't think he'll mind me saying this. Your son said to me during one of our very long drives. He said, "You know what I noticed about America is you guys all seem to really care what everybody else is doing." And I was like, "Yeah, it's real awesome." Because then I don't have to look at myself.
Mm,
I can complain about my neighbor. I can talk about my parents. I can, you know, talk about all. I do talk about the drivers on the road. It is one of the indicators of a society for me. How are we driving?
mm. Yeah, yes. I've heard you talk about driving.
They're all distractions.
Mm. Yes, and the funny thing is that when I whatever dare to just be with my own experience and take responsibility for my own experience, um, I'm able to be more compassionate about other people
Yeah,
as well because
yeah.
I'm I'm able to look at my own experience with more, I don't know, whatever it takes. Maybe that does take courage sometimes.
Mm, yeah,
Takes a bit of compassion, loving the bits that are wonky and
yeah,
off and
yeah.
yeah.
So
Have we landed this
it sure
tiny little
felt like it.
biplane?
It
Yeah,
felt
we
like a
just came to
nice
a
little
nice,
whoom.
quiet, yeah, nice little quiet. Anything you want to share as a takeaway or a learning or a
Let's see. What is my takeaway? Ah, my takeaway is that being a victim is a distraction.
wow, nice and concise.
Yeah. It's a distraction
Mm,
from me looking at myself.
mm.
How about you?
That it allows me to avoid, very similar to you,
Yeah.
allows me to avoid owning
Yeah.
what I really think.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
Mm,
All right.
bravo.
Well done today. We'll sign off. I hope
Ciao,
Tracy has a
ciao.
lovely weekend.
Yes. Toodle pip.
Okay.